Welcome to the Recovery Lab podcast. We're glad you were able to join us. Recovery Lab hopes to destigmatize addiction and normalize recovery.
Our platform provides an avenue to share the many stories of those that have recovered from addiction, providing for the listener the most basic antidote to addiction: hope.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is episode number 97.
96.
The Recovery Lab podcast series. I'm Drew Hassin.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
David Sugg.
Sean Guy.
We're all here.
By the way, Danny, your intro levels are lower than Drew's.
I know. You mean like the voices?
Yes.
Yeah, I need to remix that. I was hoping we could do it with David now that he's a part of it. It's official.
I've been there.
It's official. Take it away, Drew.
Well, guys, it's good to see y'all.
Good to see you, brother.
We've all known each other for a long time.
Too long.
Pretty long.
Long.
So we can talk about things and tell funny stories.
It's been 30 years
Yeah.
since we met.
I was thinking on the ride over here how much more hair I had.
Yes.
Now I was thinking about that picture in that living room. I've got this white long sleeve shirt on and you're laughing and Ann's there. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have that much hair again? You're doing good.
Thank you. It's just gray. They're starting to get gray.
Yeah. Like I say, rather it turn color than turn loose.
True.
Must be nice, guys. Must be nice.
The picture you're referring to, there's like 60% of us in that group that are deceased.
It's so sad. It really is. But some funny characters, to populate the history of my memories. Because who's funnier than Calvin and Chester?
Did you ever know Calvin or Chester?
I did, yeah. Knew Calvin the last couple of years of his life.
When he lost his foot?
He lost his foot and liked to take money out of the basket when it go around.
Got to eat somehow, man.
Got to get by, man. I get it. Yeah.
He had diabetes, and the way he lost his foot was by pumice stoning the rough spot on his foot a little too aggressively.
Way to go.
And he had,
who hasn't done
and
that?
that started a wound?
And it created a wound that he couldn't get to heal. And look, I went over there and would help him change the bandages on the foot. And I mean, like literally it's just a wound that wouldn't go away. And he tried all these treatments and bariatric this and bariatric that.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Vanity.
We should also pay homage to Ann.
Oh, yes.
While not as funny, but she was a good friend.
Ann had some good humor at times. Did you?
I don't know if I knew Ann.
Ann Hurley. She had been sober for
long time,
a very long time. I mean, she was like, I don't know, maybe 10 years longer than me. And I think she got sober in the 70s. So Ann had a good story. She was a good friend.
She was.
I liked Ann a lot.
Very caring, very smart, very willing to say what was on her mind. But she really did care about people. She really did.
And then Phyllis.
Poor
Phyllis. She got whisked away in a tornado.
Truly.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, you're the one that told me.
I've forgotten. It got blotted out by heroin and meth use.
You reached out to me and you were like, dude, I think Phyllis was caught up in that tornado. There was a tornado that went from like almost Vicksburg all the way to Tupelo. And she had moved up to North Mississippi. And when I found some like North Mississippi Ledger website, they had like 8 or 9 pictures of the remains of her home. And all that were left were just it was a conventional foundation. And so they had like brick pilings, on the outside of the house, and a portion of the steps were gone. It hit about 2:00 in the morning. And so, I always think about her. Can you imagine waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning and your house is just being obliterated.
Let's
Sad.
hope it happened quickly.
Yeah, I do too. I knew some people in the Delta that knew her, which is where she was from, and it was really, really sad. She treated a lot of people though when she was here in outpatient recovery. She worked at Baptist.
She was a kind person too. She really was.
She was
sweet.
Indeed. Yes.
And then who else? I think that's it.
Well, Bryce, she was in there. She moved off. Angie, she's
Where's
still
this
with us.
photo? This is where is it?
Oh, Daniel might be able to find it. He's
I have it on my Facebook
crafty
page.
and
You do?
clever
Yeah.
enough.
It's in my photos.
All right, let's see here.
I think I'm probably 19 or 20.
I got to see that.
Okay,
let's. Those were good times.
All right.
How
Me?
sober were you?
Huh?
Were you fresh out, 19? I mean,
I was probably a year or two
you were doing the deal.
sober at that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Hanging
so
with the
where is
winners.
this, Sean?
It's in my photos.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's in my uploads or my friends. Maybe just in my uploads.
Maybe in the is there? I'm not the expert on.
Here, let me share the screen here real quick.
I actually found it the other day when Randall called.
He called you.
Yeah, he's here. He's moved here.
I think.
Did I
think-
text you that the other day?
No.
Anyway, he's here. His mother is not doing well, and he moved back from Oxford, and he's living in his mother's house.
All right, walk me through here.
You'd just be scrolling down for a little while. A lot. Way on down. Are these just photos of me?
Yeah, this is photos of you.
I would look at uploads.
Okay.
Pictures from my wedding.
This one? Which,
Random oldies.
It could be in random oldies.
where do I see? Oh, here we go. Okay.
Yep,
There it is.
There it is.
Which one is this? Which one?
Well-
Below the dog.
No, that's just one of them. Further down. That's you, me, Randall, and Ann.
Okay.
Keep going. There
There's
it
all
is.
of us. Yeah.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Oh, we saw this. We saw this when you were here before, Sean.
So top right is Chester. Next to Chester is Ann. Then
Drew
me.
with the hair.
Then Phyllis. And then Bryce is at the bottom left. Angie, Phil Cook's wife.
Wait, which one is Angie? Is this Angie right here?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then Randall with the vest. And then Calvin, big Missy.
Who is this? Chester?
That's Chester.
And I was taking the photo.
You were taking the photo?
So Chester went to Columbia and reportedly made a
Some of my
perfect
party pics.
on his SAT.
I was not sober in all of those.
Is that Sam?
That is Sam.
Look, that
one?
dog would wash dishes if Sean told it to. I'm not kidding.
This is the best dog I've ever had.
Smartest
He's even
thing
tagged.
you've ever seen.
Yeah, it was actually a she, Samantha, but she was unbelievable, loyal. But one thing, let's see if Drew can remember this. The one thing that she there was really only one thing in life she hated. Do you remember what it was?
When you would point at something
No.
and make her bark.
We went up to when I was working at Baptist, and we went up there, and you were in the car.
Holy Look, this guy comes by. He was either in a wheelchair or on crutches, and she goes buck wild.
Which was it? The wheelchair, the crutches, or the
She
combo?
hated both. If you had some sort of metal appendage,
What happened?
she lost
And
her
I mean, this was a
mind.
full-grown German Shepherd that looked
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
And she was
I
not
mean,
pleased.
at her heaviest weight, she was at 100.
Big
She was a
dog.
big girl. Yes. She was smart.
She was. Look, what good memories.
Yes.
If to tie this into recovery, isn't it nice to have these periods where you can have friends? And I'm gonna steal that line from The Office. I wish you could know that you were in the good old days when you're in them, instead of thinking about it later. And those were good times.
These are good times.
These are good times.
They're good times.
But it's so easy to get mired down in, I wish this was different. I wish that was different. This isn't like I like. This isn't like I like. Oh, I hope I can achieve this. I wish this, blah, blah, blah. Instead of slowing down and thinking, this is pretty good. Life is pretty good.
But really all of my time that I've been sober have really been filled with nothing but good times.
Yeah, but there have been times that weren't good.
Well, but that might be a situational thing, like when I went through all that stuff with my ex-wife, which we're not going to get into today. But that was something. Obviously, that period, that year or so, wasn't great, but there were some great things that came about during that time period. There were a lot of recovery friends that I leaned upon during that time period. I grew a lot spiritually. So, I don't look back at that time period and think, oh, I hate that time period of my life. In a weird way, I'm so appreciative of that time period.
Well, then that reflects the mindset that you have that would be aspirational for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people would want to be able to go through a traumatic period like that and think about it in the way that you are. That's fortunate for you.
Well, I think, the essence of that, and I've gone through some, like when Sarah and I were engaged 30 years ago and we had just, we ended it.
I was thinking about that. And I was like, well, when I first met you, you were pretty blue, my man.
Well, right. And I had lost my job and I had quit New York life and I had moved out of my house with my lifelong best friend, Greg.
Yeah.
And Sarah and I had called off the engagement and I was in debt up to my eyeballs. And I had been in like this 2-year period of a dry drunk. But I developed that whole friend group as a result of me kind of diving back into AA. And, one of the things that, and that same premise was, I look back and I grew so much during that time period because I started using a spiritual advisor, Jerry McBride at the time. And, I was taking and going to see a counselor at the time, in addition to my sponsor and a lot of AA. And I started sponsoring you and a number of other guys in early sobriety, Trey. And so I look back at that time period now and I'm so thankful for that time period. But to respond to your statement a second ago, I really think the root of all of that comes from just getting sober. Because early sobriety, it sucks, but look how much wonderful shit came about as a result of that early sobriety. All those people that you met. When you were living on his couch, walking to work and walking to meetings and hitching rides to, wherever you could. Yeah. I'm imagining you probably look at that time period with I don't know, not enjoyment, but you look at it with almost happiness that you went through that.
Oh yeah. It was some of the happiest I've ever been. A little $500 car, man, and working at.
Oh, I remember when you got that car.
Oh yeah. I was it. And you and Billy and Mary Ann showed up at Walker's when I was working the window one night. I don't know if you remember, but I was just sending shit out there, left it, but like, cause y'all were the rock stars AA. It was somebody else at the foretop. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, that was like, it was great, man. It was a lot of fun.
Here's an extra fillet.
I think you sent me some fogwa.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was some good shit.
Yeah, it was great times. Just simple stuff, man. Maybe I'll see him at the meeting later, and sober one more day.
Speaking of Walkers, I went and ate at Sacred Ground yesterday.
What is that?
It's Derek and Jennifer's new barbecue restaurant out in Pocahontas.
Mm-hmm. How about the Mound?
That a storied and respected restaurateur would put a restaurant in Pocahontas blows my mind.
Well, it was packed yesterday when I went, and I'm not exaggerating. It may be the best barbecue I've ever put in my mouth.
Shut up.
I'm telling you. He had this beef rib. I mean, it was one of those huge ribs from a cow, and it had the beef on there. I mean, it was just one huge beef rib, and so two of us shared one beef rib. It was so big.
For our international listeners, I think he's won, what's that hoity-toity?
Nominated, didn't get
nominated for the James Beard Award. I mean, this is a real,
absolutely
real deal restaurateur chef.
The brisket that I ate, oh my God, it was just, I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, you know how he is. I mean, Kate and Walker's. I mean, Walker's, in my opinion, is still the best restaurant in the city of Jackson, and there's some great restaurants.
Yeah,
he's demanding. So much so, I have a funny story to tell. So I dated a girl who waited tables there, and they all the waitresses and waiters banded together and waited for the restaurant to fill up on a Friday night, and all left as revenge for what an asshole he is.
They didn't keep their jobs, did they?
No. They probably didn't get unemployment either. Or, I don't know if
but
you can.
I mean, Kate packed all the time. Walker's, I mean, it's almost
in local 463 his.
Is it? No, or is he just part owner?
I don't know if it's part. I don't know what the structure is, but that's his.
Anyway, he's good at what he does. You've got to go try it. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. As a matter of fact, when I got there, I was like, I saw Jennifer and I was like, I don't know. And she goes, well, you could get this and that. And she goes, I mean, you could get the chef's plate. And I go, let's do that. And you just decide what I need to eat on there. And I mean,
that was a good decision.
It was a great decision. I paid like $90.
Yeah, you did.
For a plate that two of us could eat off of. But, for two people to eat a huge plate of, we couldn't even finish it all. I mean, $45 is not that expensive considering what some people charge for barbecue.
Barbecue expensive.
Hell, one person could go to Rendezvous for shitty barbecue in Memphis and pay $90 probably. I don't like Rendezvous.
I can tell.
Yes. Anyway, it's not really recovery related, but anyway, I digress.
It happens.
It's all right.
It is all right.
I'm still a good person.
So much time at Baptist. You started doing that. That was early on in your sobriety. And early on, so you're mixing service work, recovery work, early sobriety all together. You're seeing a lot. You're probably super fired up. And I guess that's where you met Drew.
Yes. Well, actually,
no. I think maybe you've got some of your timeline askew.
Yeah.
He didn't work at Baptist until
I knew you. I started working after I knew you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal when you got that job.
But I had met Drew because I was still doing stuff out there at the village. Like, I mean, I would hear fist steps, or I would go out there and sometimes tell my story, or, I did aftercare at the time, which I was meeting a lot of young people because Alpha, you remember Alpha, the Baptist aftercare program?
I don't remember that it was called Alpha, but I remember the aftercare program.
It was called Alpha. They had a group. The alumni group was called Alpha, and the alumni group ran the aftercare program for Baptist.
It was a thriving thing. There were a lot of people there.
And so the format was, it was an hour and a half, and it was on Wednesday and Sunday night. You would meet in the huge auditorium for about 10 minutes or so, and you would essentially have someone talk about, say, resentment or some spiritual concept, and then y'all would all break and go to your little small groups, and then they were no more than like 10 people, and so you went to all the rooms like up on the 4th floor at Baptist, and so each small group would have like 2, I guess, moderators, if you will. I mean, they were the leader of the group.
Yeah.
And so I did mine with a guy named Thurman Kitchens. He was the leader, and I was like the backup leader. And so, but you would essentially have, it was not group therapy in the sense that you were hammering someone and telling them what a loser they are, but you would certainly, it was not an AA group in the sense that you just shared. You got feedback. There was crosstalk, but it was constructive and loving crosstalk.
I think the moderator was there kind of to keep it from turning into,
to keep it on
you're
solution.
a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah, but it was solution based and it was recovery and 12-step based, and none of the people that ran aftercare were the treatment team. But I mean, it was
cool model. Yeah, it's cool.
It was, and I would say on any average night there would be 150 people there. I mean, and of course you have to remember in the the mid 70s is when Baptists started treating, and then it was pretty much the only inpatient treatment center for over 10 years in Jackson and really much of Mississippi. I mean, and when they initially started, I know this, back then insurance didn't have limitations. So you would come in and they would keep you until they felt like you were ready to get out.
Right.
Just be inpatient.
Blue Cross was hating on it back then, weren't they?
Well, that's when they started going,
man,
whoa.
this is, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there like 10 months. They're a long time.
Yeah, but you know what the village, this was the crazy part. So the village, they had a deal because it was the Baptist organization. So when the secondary program, so we would do a month in inpatient,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would go to the village. Well, the village was only like $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
Total for everything. That included that covered the cost of treatment, your cost of housing, your cost of food, because the hospital had a deal with the Southern Baptist organization, which ran the children's village.
Right.
And they rented the 4 cottages. The food was donated it came from the children's village. So they didn't really have any food costs. And then, basically all of that $1,500 was mostly to cover the cost of the counselors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's pretty cheap. I mean, $1,500 a month.
What would that
treatment?
be in today's dollars, though? Would that be $5,000?
Probably.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
because you lived there and you ate 3 meals and 2 snacks and everything.
Didn't go out unless we're going to meetings, or then third phase when we start working.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, pretty much there was about a 5-month stretch where you were there the whole time.
And they had a school for the
I went, and that's where I decided.
I had graduated from high school.
Well, they did not have school when I was there, but they started it, and you were going to school. I remember that.
I had already graduated from high school.
Oh, so you weren't, but somebody was going to it. You went to it, huh?
I went, yeah. I had some deep digging and some soul searching. I was like, am I really going to go back to high school after this? It was like, no. I was like, you should just get your GED. I was like, let's do it.
Let's good enough.
Yeah.
Those are some good times. That was a great deal. And, that same model is used by a number of facilities still to this day for adolescents. Because I think, and I believe this with all of my heart, I don't think that adolescents can really get sober through outpatient. I mean, I didn't get sober in outpatient. I mean, because I was still hanging with all of my friends that were drinking and using. I mean,
it's virtually impossible to extricate yourself from your friends when you're in high school.
And high school and college or whatever. I mean, that's it. I mean, when you're an adult, y'all sponsor people that are adults that get sober when they're adults. They come in and they're not hanging out with their friends all the time. They got a wife, or maybe they just got divorced, but they got kids or whatever. So it's not like their whole world centers around hanging out with guys all the time. But when you're 18 through 25, that's all you have. I mean, what else do you do? I mean, it was
Well, it's certainly more difficult for high schoolers because what are you going to, I mean, unless you change high schools, because you're going to go, and that's a big ask for a teenager.
I don't think that if I had not stayed out there for 9 months, now granted, 3 or 4 months of that was working. I had re-enrolled back in college and was taking like 1 or 2 courses. I was working. And so, we'd go out there basically and spend the night. And then the weekends you were off for the most part. I mean, but I just don't think that I would have stayed sober had I not done that, because I had gotten my sponsor and I had finished my steps before I ever was discharged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very, very different today. When we go out to some treatment centers and hear fifth steps, and a lot of times when I'm listening to a fifth step, the guy's leaving treatment that day. Like that's like their graduating moment. Whereas like when we were at the Village, I mean, we went all the way through. Fifth step was happening in like month 3 or 4, and then we're carrying. We were like working with other alcoholics.
I went back to the main unit, and do you remember Mickey Mugen?
Oh yeah, Mick Mugen.
Mickey Mugen
He was a priest.
Had been a priest, and had been defrocked or was voluntarily defrocked. I never knew the story, but that's the person that I gave my fifth step to.
Do you know? This was just a few years back. I was in the attic and I was looking through some stuff, and I ran across a notebook that I had from treatment, and this was when I was an inpatient, and Mick had come and he was giving a talk in that auditorium, and the talk was on spirituality.
Oh.
And the first thing I had in my notes was ego, edging God out. And that's who I first heard that from. And I was flipping through there and reading some of that stuff that he gave us in that meeting, and I was taking notes, and it was like, I mean, that's like some recovery gold stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was
Look,
good.
how impactful must it? I mean, I'm sitting here thinking I can name every counselor that was at Baptist and at the Village.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Stubbs, Don Nairn,
Big
Sue,
Red,
Sue Weisinger, Jill Johnson, Darlene Day.
Yeah.
I mean, they made an impact.
See, now all of those were gone because I had Penny Euler.
I remember her name.
I had BJ Bishop. I had David Shaw, which everybody knows D. Shaw, and most of us do. And let's see, Barry Blue, before Barry went out and was a counselor out at Copac, but he initially started at Baptist in the Children's Village. So it was good stuff. And I was in Alumni Cottage and Kathy. Wait. Was it Alumni Kathy and then Carter, or was it Alumni Carter then Kathy?
I think
Who
Carter was the second one.
Okay, then it was Kathy with Mama Ham and Papa Ham.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Alumni, and then I moved to Mama and Papa Ham's in Kathy.
What was the fourth one's name?
Was that Cooper? That's where the girls were.
That's where the girls were when I was there too.
Yeah. Whoever the house mother was for the girls' cottage, she used to make the girls clean the bathtub with bleach, and then she would take a bath in bleach. Well, not full bleach, but she would pour bleach in there and get in the bathtub. I just remember thinking, what the hell?
God.
But the house mothers were great. I mean, remember Mama Louise? And
Yeah. And Mama Mamie.
Mama Louise, she
Were
would.
they volunteers?
They were basically retired people that went and served. I mean,
Yeah.
the Village. I mean, they were not employees of the treatment center. They were employees of the Children's Village.
Yeah.
And so they let them live there, and that was part of the whole arrangement that they had with the treatment facility.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, what a setup, man. To get that kind of care and that kind of, connectivity, to live there. I mean, I'm convinced that's why Jackson's got such a strong recovery community now, is for those seeds being planted then. I mean, like what Baptist was doing And just, I mean, they were cranking out some serious sobriety, man. Some good stuff.
I wonder how Baptists wasn't able to figure out some profitable model to keep some of the treatment industry going.
Well,
maybe you know
that's a very good question, and it's a very lengthy answer that has to do a lot with some internal issues with Baptist. You know, the Baptist hated the Chemical Dependency Center because they wanted it to be solely a Christian-based program. And, you know, Mary Ross, who started, you know, the treatment facility, she had gone to treatment up in Minnesota at Hazelden. And so when Mary Ross decided to start, you know, the treatment center down here, she based it on what is now widely known as the Minnesota model. A lot of treatment centers back then, pretty much all the treatment centers that were starting up in the 70s and 80s were the Minnesota model, which is a 12-step based, you know, program. There's not a whole lot of Minnesota model treatment facilities left because they do a lot of trauma. But in any event, Mary brought that form of treatment down here, and so they started it. Well, when I was working there in the mid-90s, I can't tell you how many times management and Baptists would talk to, well, Mary had retired at that time, but Joanne she was co-director with Lynn Pruitt, and they would talk all the time to them about, can't we change the 12 steps and have Jesus in there? And, you know, they hated the fact that it was not a Christian-based treatment program. And so because of that, in my opinion, I think there were a lot of things that they did to almost just undermine what they were doing. They just really didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, but when I was working there, they were the second highest form of unit of revenue for the hospital behind cardiology.
Really?
Yes.
So it was profitable.
Yes.
Well, you know, that's so weird because if you get cancer, they don't tell you need Jesus to fix it. I mean, they give you cancer medicine.
Good point.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why can't you just lay hands on them and get that tumor out? Never heard that.
But, you know, St. Christopher's in Louisiana, if y'all are familiar with it, it's an adolescent treatment program. Now, the guy who started it got sober around the time that I did, and he went through a very similar model. And so he wanted to start a treatment program that was just like that. And so, you know, Copac was for a long time, although it wasn't adolescents, it was young adults and adults.
Right.
But it had the same kind of model as the Children's Village. And, you know, St. Christopher still does that for adolescents. And there's some other facilities that have kind of that long-term residential component for adolescents, which, you know, going back to what I said earlier, I just think that's so critical for really creating a foundation for recovery for someone that's in their late teens and early 20s.
Look, it was important for me in my 40s to be removed from my epicenter of poor choices for a long time.
How long were you in treatment?
I was down there for 6 or 7 months. And then
where was that?
In Loosedale at this faith-based place. And they really do say, like, AA is verboten completely, hands down, across the board. Don't even talk about it. You're not.
So were you just walking around with a secret in your pocket, like, I'm going to some AA, or were you like, you didn't know what you were going to do? Or
well,
you just
no. I mean, I knew in my mind. I mean, I was intellectually aware that some of the things they say are crazy.
So like what's their post-treatment plan?
They they stay there forever. I mean, in a way, it's a lot like a monastery. It's exactly like Teen Challenge, but it's a lot like a modern day monastery. Come here, live. You can live here forever. They have guys that have been there for 10 and 12 years.
Yeah. So I had a sponsee that he went through Teen Challenge. He had been through a number of treatment centers. Was married, kids. got divorced, lost his job, was homeless. I mean, tried to commit suicide a couple of times and failed. And his family basically said, "You're going to Teen Challenge," when he had literally nothing left. And he went there for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, they make you at some point start working to help. You make cold calls to help, get people to donate to the organization. But it's
let me enlighten you.
It's 100%, Jesus based. But they remove you completely from society.
Yes. Yeah. So at the City of Refuge, you're there for a month.
That's where you went?
Yes. It's called the City of Refuge. It's a lot like Teen Challenge. You're there for a month, and you're basically on lockdown. You can't really leave the main building.
Can't talk to anybody.
Not outside. On the telephone. No, I mean, you can talk to your
right, but
friends.
I mean, you can't talk to the outside world.
No. There's no television. There's no newspaper. You're there
to learn about
Jesus. And there are local ministers that come and give you lectures all through the day from say 8 to 2. And then you can kind of mill around and piddle. Then after the first month, you enter the stream of commerce in some fashion. Now, some guys that had been at Teen Challenge left Teen Challenge and went to the City of Refuge, and they took with them the knowledge and the technology for the cross building. So you build crosses.
Well, how big of a cross are we talking about?
This big,
okay.
18 inches tall, 12 inches wide. You either start building crosses.
Do they sell those?
Yes. Or you're on the team that goes out to sell them. Now, when I tell you they make a lot of money, fun guy, they make a truck ton.
There's a fungus among us.
The fungus among us. They make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month.
Shut your mouth.
Sending teams out to sell these crosses. Now, the administrators at the City of Refuge made a deal with Teen Challenge. If you'll teach us how to do this, we'll promise not to fundraise in Mississippi. So even though our City of Refuge is in Lucedale,
we went to Alabama.
5 or 6 teams went out each week, and you would go to, all over Alabama. I went to North Arkansas one time. I also went ham. Man, my mama's not around, so I can tell this whole story. I had a pocket full of money, and my partner knew where to get some heroin, and it was on, son.
Why, you're a resident at the City of Refuge?
Oh, yeah.
Heaven forbid.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
And they have GPSs on the vans, and they were like, "We know where you are."
You broke bad with the cross money?
Oh, yeah. Look. Went.
I thought you just said that you needed to be withdrawn from
society.
It was working.
Yeah.
Well,
and now you've relapsed while
they
withdrawn.
send the wrong person on the cross-selling team. So I get back, and I said, "Hey, look, you know what? Sorry."
It happened.
Yeah. You went, this is what you
Look,
did. You
I
said,
did it.
accident.
I did it.
You got me.
I'm sorry. So they said, "All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you in charge of the mill to cut the wood to make the crosses."
You still got all your fingers.
What do I know about running a wood mill? I know how to not cut my fingers off, and I've got them all. So,
but your sobriety date today is from when you were in there?
Well, so I went ham twice.
Okay.
I atoned for having, let the enemy whisper in my ear.
I mean, that's some Satan stuff.
I'm sorry. Who sent you out in a van with any kind of goods for any kind of money?
I'm out one time in a van that doesn't have a side window. It's just a towel up there. We get pulled over, and the cop's like, "Do you have a driver's license?" I'm like, "Not on me." And he said, "Well, what's your name and social security number?" I end up getting arrested because there's a warrant for me in Tupelo. So,
did you tell him you were on the druggy buggy? For
Getting
Christ.
well?
Man, throw me a bone, bro. I'm out here for the Lord. I'm
It's getting well, dude.
spreading the good news. So he didn't care. I got arrested. Rankin County comes and gets me, and City of Refuge holds it down hard for me. They come and bail me out. Wow. I mean, the guy who runs the place is a felon. His name is Herman Fountain, and he is the most charismatic speaker I've ever seen. You cannot not like the man.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. So Big Herman, I mean, it's the Flies, Lord of the Flies. I mean, it's Lord of the Flies down there, and but they bailed me out. I go back to the city, and
this treatment is free.
It is penny. You don't have to pay.
I mean, that's like
dime.
Teen Challenge. You go to Teen Challenge free.
So
but you're beholden to them.
You're gonna earn it.
Yeah.
There's
Selling Jesus.
Yeah. You cannot talk about AA at all. That is looked down on for sure. But, they're loving, caring people who, although I have a philosophical difference of opinions about some of their views on religion and spirituality, they care about people. And I mean, there are 100 guys there.
Have you kept up with any of your class?
Yeah, look, I've been down there a couple times. I got my cousin who is a ne'er-do-well and a miscreant. I got him in there.
Sometimes I think, like my friend who got sober there, and he's still sober, and he's resurrected his life, and he goes some to AA. He doesn't live in state anymore. But, I mean, he told me when he got out, he's like, I needed this.
I did need it. Look, I'll give you an example of how peculiar some of their beliefs are. And I just had to reconcile with myself that I knew I wasn't going to change these guys' minds. So I'm in a class one morning, and they're explaining how the Bible is the inerrant word of God. And they say, look, we know it's true because this verse says this and this verse says that. And it says that it's true.
It's true.
And I said, well, look, let me ask you a question. I said, the Catholic Bible has those exact passages in it, plus 5 other books that are not in this Bible. And he kicked me out of class for sowing discord.
Yeah.
So did you didn't get into the conversation about the Apocrypha?
No, look, you just shut up and appreciate what they're doing for you. Because, while I'm kind of, shining on them a little bit, look, I remember there was a day when I was there, and look, I had ruined my whole life. I had lost a house, a car. I had, sacrificed a marriage really to poor choices and being a shitty person. And I had lost a professional license. And, I didn't know I was going to get disbarred. I had not been disbarred yet, but I lost a profession. Was absolutely penniless. I had no idea how I was ever going to get back to Jackson. I had no idea how.
You had some internet fame while running through yards.
I had some internet fame running through yards. God. I don't look back on that part of my life.
I remember like everybody in the AA was like, man, have you seen this shit on Hassin?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, what? Go check this website out, dude. He's over there running around, causing all kinds of craziness.
Through people's backyards.
Oh, yeah. There was barefoot panic. Yeah.
Because I had lost my shoes in the mud when I took a shortcut through a creek and a ditch. Meth.
Mm-hmm.
But you've gotten your license back.
I have. But there was a time I remember sitting on my bunk at the City of Refuge, and I had this sense of peace. And I thought, okay, I can use some of the things that I've learned here to help me. And look, I still employ some of those things in my life now. So I think that the pure faith-based model can work for you if maybe you have some other stuff along the way, some 12-step, some talk therapy, some working knowledge of trauma and its impact on your life. Now, I do know a few people that do the purely faith-based and have been very successful, but there aren't that many.
No, and you know, that's what Bill discovered with Evie, you know, through the Oxford groups, that, you know, this faith-based organization, the Oxford groups, you know, they had the rough outline for what became the 12 steps, but it didn't have the critical step, which was carrying the message, which is what Bill discovered with Bob. And it wasn't until, you know, here he was wanting to drink that he discovered that carrying the message to another alcoholic is what removed that desire to drink. And so when we see the language, nothing, you know, else ensures our sobriety other than working with an alcoholic, that's what he discovered. And so, but, you know, Bill was never one to say you couldn't get sober through the religious model. I mean, he encouraged you if you could, but if you couldn't,
come on.
And that's still, I think, I mean, I still think that is the way we should view it. And I know that I certainly do. I don't look down on anyone that can get sober through the religious model. I know that I couldn't. And, you know, if that's all I had, because it didn't work for me beforehand. And I rejected that for a long time, you know, the religious aspect, not the spirituality. I mean, when I got to AA and I heard that, you know, there was this spiritual thing where I didn't have to go to church as long as I had a relationship with a higher power, I was like, heck yeah. I mean, you know, that made me willing, because I had such a distrust for organized religion, you know, skepticism, you know, just, and some anger and resentment too. I mean, you know, I just thought everyone was hypocrite.
Well, you know, I'll say in support of the City of Refuge, and I'm sure Teen Challenge has people like this too, it was impactful to me to see people that legitimately had pure faith, had absolute faith that God was going to work this out, whatever this is, you know, fill in the blank for this. God was going to work it out. And I don't know that I had been around anybody. It looked and felt different from church when I was a kid. And I like that.
You know, in my podcast that I do on Dave Talks Some More, we had a guest in here. Remember, we had Judge Ball.
Yeah.
And
that was a good one.
He's not, you know, he doesn't need to be in recovery from A&D, but we got into this spiritual conversation during the podcast, just really kind of came out of left field. But he started talking about some personal things that he was doing in his life that really took him away from God, that started to create a lot of heartache and hardship for him personally. And he had this, you know, this moment of clarity through, you know, a spiritual experience that brought him to God. And, you know, he developed this faith like we do in AA, but he, you know, he had this background in religion and God and, you know, Christianity that totally changed his life, and for the better. And, you know, he still carries that message to other people because it's part of, I mean, it's the same model, but you know, he's not doing it to quote unquote stay sober. I mean, you know, he's doing it to address the issues that he had in his life at the time. And it was very impactful. I mean, but it's the same premise to what you were talking about, these people that have this deep faith to change and guide them in their life. Why us AA people could never get that, you know, I think it goes back to, for us, which is, you know, what is our dilemma? Lack of power. And we want that power. And, you know, we're just too damn stubborn. I know I was.
Yeah. You're not stubborn though, are you?
It still takes me a long time. Uncle. I have a rough time even in sobriety, you know, just letting go and surrendering, trying to get out of my head. It's tough. You know, you work with me.
I know.
Patiently.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think it was maybe yesterday or Friday. I was in a meeting and someone was talking about just the unwillingness to call their sponsor. And I was thinking about you because you were like, I just didn't want to call you. And I mean, how many times I've been there? I mean, I knew it. I mean, when she was sharing, I was like, girl, I get it. I mean, you know what you need to do. And
have you prayed about it? She's like, I don't want to hear it.
As a matter of fact, Forrest was sitting next to me, another former sponsor of mine, and he goes, because I used to always say to Forrest, well, the hard part's over, which is what my sponsor used to always say to me when I would finally call and, you know, ask for help, that 500-pound telephone. And Forrest was like, the hard part's over now because she's now told on herself and she's asked for help. And, you know, it's just like, we just don't want to ask for help. What the hell is that about? I don't know. I think it goes back to that core, you know, we're so self-centered and, you know, we want to be able to be the one that fixes it, controls it, understands it. The fact of the matter is we can't.
I like that. We want to be the ones, we want the credit for having. Yeah. I've always just viewed it through the lens of, you know, I don't want this person to see, you know,
we're so egotistical.
Mm-hmm.
We're so egotistical. And what deflates that ego? You know,
I need help.
God. I mean, you know, ultimately, we've got to do whatever we have to do to deflate that ego. You know, not destroy the ego. I mean, you can't destroy the ego. I mean, that's, you know, but you have to have it right sized. I mean, you got to. And the crazy thing is this, I remember when I was in early recovery understanding this, it was like, you know, I had ego in being the worst person in the world. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, my ego is that I think that I'm the best. You know, I would be like, I'm the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it didn't
Taking
matter.
Pride.
Oh, yeah. I could take the biggest bong head. I could do I could do the longest line, you know, the biggest gator tail. I mean, whatever.
Give zero fucks. Zero. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So what year were you in? What year did you go to the village?
That would have been 97.
So a couple years after you.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't around much longer after that.
I don't think it was. I used to my mom used to run me up for some aftercare. I used to do a little and then it stopped. But it was an amazing place. I still look back on that. I went to a lot of treatment centers after that, and it was just like the 28-day turnaround, you know, just in and out, quick. I mean, I didn't have time to really get sober. I mean, even like get detox in 28 days. I mean, just like think about going someplace for 10 months, almost a year. And I don't know if it's like the common ground here, what we're talking about, the religious-based thing or the Baptist Children's Village, whatever it was, if it's just like, you know, long-term and the ability to really connect with people who really cared, you know, if that's kind of the missing thing that we're kind of identifying. I don't think it is necessarily religion or not religion. I think it's more just that environment where you can really build some long-term relationships with people that really care about it. Because Jill and Penny and all these counselors you're talking about, they cared so much, and they were there every day. And the people you're talking about, I know they do care. So we see both things working. I hope that we can find some of that in our treatment centers today instead of just this like 15 or 20-day turnaround.
Well, I think the most important thing about long-term treatment is a person needs opportunities to cycle fully through having something, we'll call it bad, happen, and to work through it. Because, you know, I think about, so there's a professor at the law school that says, hey, And there's a class in the law school where you have to write a brief. And this funny professor that we all know, he said, look,
Steffi?
Yeah. The reason you write this brief is so that when you're a practicing attorney, the first brief you have to write for a client is not the very first brief you've ever written. And that's really it. And the same thing is true for treatment. You need to go through a couple things and see that there's a way to work through it and get to the other side and not have your life crash down around you and not used. And so that you can face the next thing that's not going to go your way.
Yeah.
Because, I suffered from the delusion in the beginning that as long as I was sober, that I would be insulated from having bad things happen to me. And then when when I went through something, I was ill-equipped to deal with it. And I think that's why long-term treatment is the most effective. And I appreciate that you opened that door because it feels a lot better.
There's so many, just listening to you, it made me think about so many things that long-term treatment does for you that's not really intended or designed, but it is a positive consequence. So for example, like what you're saying is you go through an event, but I think you also learn that you can have some happiness and joy not drinking and using because you've been there long enough, right? I mean,
yes,
I would have happiness and joy playing spades, with all of the people sitting around the table smoking. I mean, just, and laughing and cutting up, and we weren't drunk or high, but, and then you would learn how to communicate with people because, you would have to have one-on-ones. You remember those? You had to have so many one-on-ones a day or whatever.
I forgot about that.
but you would learn how to discuss your feelings and be something, more than just, hey, what's the temperature today? Or what, who won the game last night? Where you're having a legitimate, meaningful conversation with another human being. So you learn that. But then there's other things like Mike C., who I sponsor. He went through treatment shortly after I did at the Village. And, Mike talks about today, he was like, while I didn't stay sober, it taught me how to make my bed and wash the dishes and to be responsible and, do things that apparently I had never been forced or required to do. When I know that for me, when I get up and, I make my bed in the morning, and I'm getting dressed for the day, I walk out of the house feeling good, and when I come home and the bed is made and my room is clean, I don't feel that anxiety that comes from clutter. And so you learn a lot of different ways to create, I guess, happiness and peace and, some sort of sense of normalcy in your life without drinking and using. And, that's a huge benefit that comes from treatment that doesn't have anything to do with the 12 steps or God. Right?
Well, I think what it's doing is ultimately addressing the reasons why we used in the first place is, we had a lack of, being centered, a lack of confidence, a lack of, feeling okay with ourself that is generated by what Sean likes to call physical sobriety. The making your bed. And hey, I do feel I can develop a sense of well-being in a way that is not taking the biggest bong hit.
Yeah. Totally unrelated, but related. I was in a meeting the other day and there was a girl there and she got sober when she was 18 and she's now been sober 7 years. I'm sure you know her. I'm not going to name her name, but I was sitting there thinking while I was listening to her share, and, I feel such a bond. I mean, she could be my daughter. I mean, she's the same age as my middle child.
Yeah, don't you love that?
But I mean, I'm listening to her share. She's got some great stuff that she's sharing, but I feel a connection and a bond with her that is different than other alcoholics, because I know that she got sober at a time when I got sober. And I do believe that people that get sober at 18 to 25, I think that they face different challenges that people that get sober do not have. And so it's just this weird connection that I feel with anyone that gets sober at that age. And I want to be a part of that to a certain extent, with them in their life. And, and I want to let them know, certainly when I know anyone that's getting sober at that age, hey, I got sober at that age too, because so that they know that it's
possible.
It is possible. I think it's easier today than it was many years ago, but.
Well, there are certainly more people, and that helps. There are more younger people.
Yeah, but where do they go to treatment? Just outpatient? I mean, around here, there's just nothing, honestly. I don't know where they go.
I don't either.
And I know there's still a young people's group around town?
Yeah, Missy Paul's still doing it.
But there's the young people, the Yana meeting, are they still meeting?
I don't know if they are.
I think I heard that they cut that.
They disbanded.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, talking about Billy. So, Billy and me and Mark Hagwood and Frank Garrison and, there's a whole group of us that are all still sober. We started a young people in AA group in 1989. And we were all maybe a year sober. And so I didn't know anything about it. I think Billy was like, there is this thing. It's an offshoot of AA. I mean, but it's still under GSO, and it's a real AA group. And so I was like, okay, yeah. So we all got together and we elected officers, and, we started the meeting and we got registered with GSO, and, we were doing the whole thing, and, we would have our group conscience once a month, and, we learned how to do it all because, Beagle Pack isn't letting some 18-year-old come be, GSR of their group, right? I mean, so that was kind of one of the purposes of it, was to say, we're going to let young people have the ability to hold these positions and, experience that aspect of service work. And so we were so proud of it. And the group went on for, 4 or 5 years. And then we started doing, bringing Missy Paul conference together. And we had this, statewide conference. We were going to the Archie Paul and Lacey Paul and all this other kind of stuff, which was wonderful and a huge part of my recovery. But so fast forward to, this was Billy's last year. Okay. You remember that you were in the meeting that we had before Billy died, where there was like 800 years of sobriety up in the men's group.
Meeting, yeah.
So right around that time, Billy goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "You know how we always thought we were the first young people meeting in Mississippi?" And I was like, "Yeah." Of course, I knew where this was going. He goes, "Charlie Scott started one in the late 70s at Yana."
Wow.
And I was like, "Shut up." And he was like, "Yeah." He goes, right before Charlie died, he was telling me that he and a couple of other people, because Charlie got sober when he was really young too, they started the first young people in AA group in Mississippi in the late 70s up at Yana. And so I was like, I could have gone the rest of my life believing that we were the first. And, it was a nice shot to our ego, which Billy and I actually
you edged
appreciated.
God right out, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
That's cool.
Well, look, I'm looking at the time up there, and we have run a little long, but I could really sit here and talk to y'all for the rest of the afternoon. I love both of y'all. I really do.
Love you, brother.
You too. But I see you all the time.
Yeah. Love you, brother.
Thanks,
All right.
Sean. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Sean.
Yeah, I'm glad. By the way, I'm glad to know that you're going to be doing this with these two jokers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, when Danny leaves to go, be some highfalutin, producer down in Miami, he's gonna need you to fill the chair with Drew.
Look, I tried to do the podcast one time without him, and I broke out in a sweat. I accidentally bumped one of the buttons over there and cut off the person's microphone. I had videos. I'm serious. Like, we had the days before he left, I recorded literally, this is what you do. And, this, and I watched it over and over again. I bumped the button and sweat. I mean, I can feel like I'm not a sweaty person and I'm sweating. But fortunately, I was able to save it, but I almost passed out.
You were sweating like the first meeting you ever chaired.
Yeah.
Did you sweat the first time you ever chaired a meeting?
Oh, yeah. I thought certainly someone's going to have to go out and relapse right after I chaired the shittiest meeting in the world.
He drove them away.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Damn,
my
David.
fault.
All right. Well, look, we're off next week.
Yep.
But we'll be here. So
Following
the next
Sunday.
weekend's the 8th or the 9th.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Then we will return
Absolutely.
for episode number 97.
I'm really thankful y'all brought me on here.
It's good.
Y'all can bring me back anytime you want.
Cool. Thanks.
We
Yeah,
love
maybe
that.
I mean, I don't really have to do a whole lot of preparation. So I'm just good on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. We're out, everybody.
All right, guys. We'll see you week after next.
2 weeks.
All right, y'all are muted.